Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Benjamin Frankenbutt.
Again,
Halloween.
with the butt ones.
There's a lot of them, so get ready.
Oh,
It was popular when Haley and I were making the list.
That's Benjamin Frankenbutt.
Yeah.
It's almost like a distant cousin for Frankenberry.
They get sillier, by the way. So I mean, buckle up.
They get sillier as the movies we pick get more serious.
I guess this movie's not that too.
Well, I mean,
and it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Yeah. Yes. An actual Halloween episode that wasn't forced.
Well,
unlike
that we lost. Shout out to Rocky Horror. That episode no one will ever hear.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
We'll redo it. I've almost forgotten everything I said, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Was that going to be the Halloween episode?
I think so.
Or was it just going to land on Halloween and we're like perfect?
I think it was chosen for Halloween, if I remember correctly.
Well, to be honest, I don't even remember how we lost it. I don't remember if Oh wait, I do remember. The fucking audio and video hadn't been recording the whole time, I think. I don't remember.
Classic.
Truly don't remember.
That's classic us through and through.
Yeah. No, it really is. But yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. Again, a Halloween episode that's not forced.
Or themed.
Or themed, yeah. Like last year's Spooktacular with Evil Dead 1 and 2. But welcome back, everyone. In case you forgot, we had to delay this episode about a week. Just because Jeremy did some traveling, went to Lubbock, came to Midland. We hung out.
Yeah.
I got a haircut. Because, the last episode, my hair was longer.
Yeah, it's like, it's looking good. It's pretty good. Yeah, I can.
Yeah. And also, not necessarily a recommendation, but we finished, not together, but we finished Mike Flanagan's new show, The Fall of the House of Usher, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. Again, it's in third place for his miniseries so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Hill House, I think, is
top tier.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No getting around it. It's the best. It's the best there is. Plain and simple.
Yeah. It's terrifying. It's heartbreaking. And I don't think Mike Flanagan will ever be able to recreate that. Sidebar before we get into the actual episode, did you hear, I don't know if you knew this, but Frank Langella was originally supposed to be Roger Usher.
Yes.
But then that's when he was getting a lot of shall we say not savory news.
Whoops.
And thankfully Bruce Greenwood came in and honestly, bro,
which makes sense because the whole time I was racking my brain, I go, he's not that old. So I don't know what they're, but whatever. Yeah, it was, he was amazing. Of course, he's always amazing and everything. I when I tell Dad and I can't remember his name, I'll go, it's the guy from Double Jeopardy. And Dad goes, yep. It's every time. He's like, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, Bruce Greenwood. Honestly, I don't think there was anyone better. And also, it sticks with Mike Flanagan's whole reusing actors,
Yeah, definitely.
Bruce Greenwood was in Gerald's Game. I think that's it, really.
Okay, there you go.
But
yeah, it was good. It was good. Definitely check it out if that's what you're into and you got 8 hours. Go for it. I actually do have a recommendation.
Okay.
I was extremely lucky that I got to see David Fincher's The Killer yesterday. Um,
Oh,
I loved every second of this movie. Um, I mean, Fassbender, you can't go wrong. Um, Based on a graphic novel I'd never heard of, but
isn't it? Isn't it supposed to be on
it'll be
Netflix
on
soon?
Netflix in November, November 10th. So,
Ah,
um, be on the lookout for that. Highly, highly recommend, guys. It's like the perfect movie for me. I don't know. I thought it was awesome. So, um, go check it out when you have the chance. It'll be on Netflix, like I said, November 10th. And if you live in a place that I had an Alamo Draft House 20 minutes away, so I just they were showing it there. So maybe they're still showing it. So uh, check your
well,
local theaters.
and also you got to see Killers of the Flower Moon
I
too.
did. Yeah, I did. Also
Very
incredible.
jealous, very jealous about that one.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, it's Scorsese,
Yeah.
and he's got his two heavy hitters in one movie, Robert and Leo.
And they're doing heavy
Um,
hitting too, for sure. It's
yeah,
and Lily Gladstone, forget it, dude. She's in one of the
uh,
best episodes of Reservation Dogs. It's like, dude, you can't. It's so good. The movie is really truly great. So
um, I could have sworn that it was going to be on Apple TV because I know Apple helped produce it
mhm.
or at least distribute it. So I could have sworn I saw somewhere that was going to be on Apple TV, but maybe
And it
not
might
for a
be.
while.
It still might be. I think not until like December or January. I think maybe.
Yeah, here,
Um,
let me see.
yeah, you peep that because
Killers of
I
the
did.
Flower
I could
Moon
have sworn I saw it. It was gonna be.
coming. Yeah, all it says on if you're if watching this episode on YouTube, all it says on my Apple TV app, in theaters now, Killers of the Flower Moon, coming at a later date, Apple TV Plus.
Okay, so TBD.
Yeah. Yeah, hella super excited for that. And as I just recently learned too of a short film that Scorsese did with Leo and Robert called The Audition,
Oh yeah, that came out like
which
10 years ago.
I just recently learned about it because I saw a clip of it where Leo and Robert are like throwing jabs at one another, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is hilarious. Because Leo
Yeah,
kept doing the whole like, well, let me talk to my director real quick. It's so good.
yeah. I don't even remember like it. I don't know. It could have been when he was doing the Revenant or after that. Like
Mm-hmm.
right after he did the Revenant, maybe.
Yeah, I think so because his hair was still long and he still had his beard. So
So I don't know, or maybe he was preparing for it. But it was a long time ago when that came out, and then that's when the rumor started that they were doing a movie together. And here we go. We're
yeah,
however many years later, and we got it. So
I think 8 because I think the short film was 2015.
okay, there you go.
So anyway, but we're not here to talk about those movies,
No,
unfortunately.
just did. Too
Um,
bad.
yeah, but we just did. So if you remember, 2 weeks ago from our Dear Zachary episode, today we are discussing the 1988 animated or anime, I should say, anime film Akira, or as I learned over the extra week we had to prep for this episode, apparently it's actually pronounced Akira, but to make things easier, I'm just going to say Akira.
Sure, sure.
So this was a first watch for the both of us, yes, or you'd already seen it?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I'm gonna call this one a first watch because I did attempt to watch it
Mm-hmm.
one other time, and I'll be honest with you, I got distracted. So, uh, and as I would later learn, I'm not alone. So, but we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the first watch for me, and between the two of us, I'm the weeb, I'm the anime fan. But
Oh,
I'd never seen it. Everyone told me about it. because it is, it is the reason why American audiences kind of gravitated towards anime later on. It was because of this movie,
Yes.
which is insane to me because you know, you and I grew up with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. So it's like if this movie would have never came from Japan, I don't think we ever would have grown up with those.
I mean, probably not. So, I mean, they were obviously, they had. It's not like they had just started doing it, and then
Right.
Akira came out, and then they're like, oh, we can keep doing this. They'd been doing it for years and years before this.
Right.
And then this movie came out. Um, Western audiences saw it, loved it, got a huge positive response. Then they saw Ghost in the Shell, and then it was over.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Yeah.
now anime is for the world, not just for Japan. Um,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just, I don't think, the story and the action and the excitement and the entertainment value of the film, which is there, right?
Mm.
But a lot has to be said about the technical aspects of making the film, which, of course, I think is even, I would say it's 60% of the success.
Yeah.
I would say the other 40 is the story and all the stuff I just mentioned, but the technical aspect I think is a little bit more valuable in this case. And
Mm.
we'll get to that, but I think we should talk about the story as best we can.
Yes.
Because as we will sort of get to, when it comes to the source material, the graphic novels, or what are they called?
The manga.
Thank you. Um, there's 9 or
There's
some
6,
6.
but they're over 2,000 pages, which is unheard of
Well, and
for
they
a
weren't
manga.
they weren't finished publishing the last book when this came out. So this movie sort of this movie determined how the books ended, right?
Yeah.
But in doing so, they had to. What they ended up doing was they took like the first half of the first book and the last half of the last published book, and then they made this movie out of the two, and sort
Yeah.
of wove them together. Um, which again we'll get to, but that's where sort of like around the halfway mark, people are sort of like, "What's happening?" Right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So since this was my pick, do you want me to do you want
please.
me to do it or okay? All right. So Akira is a cyberpunk dystopian thriller. After Japan is hit with some sort of nuclear fallout in 1988, we fast forward to 2019, and the country has rebuilt itself in this almost, and we'll probably mention it a lot, Blade Runner esque world.
Takes place in the
Would
same year as Blade Runner 2, but that's fine.
Yes, but I mean, well, Blade Runner was a huge influence.
Yeah, obviously.
Um, um, and we, even though society has come back together to build what they now call Neo Tokyo, there's still a lot of civil unrest. There are protests on a daily basis. Kids are feral and have all created motorcycle gangs because they don't, honestly, they don't care because the pessimism and I can't think of the other word, but the kids, they don't care about this world because the world doesn't treat them well. So why would they care?
Mm.
And this all kicks off when one biker gang, which I never realized this was the name of their gang until I watched the video, called the Capsules, led by our two main characters, Kaneda and his best friend Tetsuo. And while they were being hooligans, Tetsuo gets in an accident with a government experimented child, which awakens Tetsuo's latent psychic abilities. And essentially from here in the story, and we'll get to it and what you've already kind of teased to, is where the story kind of bobs and weaves a little bit. Because essentially Tetsuo's psychic abilities essentially turn him into a psychopath, where he goes on a rampage throughout Neo Tokyo, trying to find the one they call Akira, because he keeps hearing this name Akira, and Akira is supposed to be the most powerful psychic being. And the story bobs and weaves a lot between Kaneda trying to go and rescue Tetsuo. We get some of their background and their friendship through flashbacks, until the whole movie culminates in this essentially really gross body horror explosion where Akira, which we'll get into, is reawakened and takes Tetsuo to another plane of existence. And that's Akira. I yada through a lot of that because I figured we would kind of sit with some of these elements and break them down. But yeah, so like you were saying, yeah, the movie is in a way a companion piece to the manga, because video I watched is, yeah, it was based on the first manga, and then apparently actually the one it was being, you're right, it's being published, but the last one wasn't published until the movie was over. So the movie had already come out and the last one was finally published.
Mm-hmm.
And so the movie is essentially a companion piece. There was a really great video I watched about it. Hopefully Future Rain will link it somewhere. Where the host of the video was talking about how, so because of this, the movie isn't a true adaptation. The movie is, if you think about it, the original piece, and so are the manga. Because since the manga was still being published while the movie was in production, as you said, the creator of both the manga and the movie, I even looked it up to make sure I could do it, and I'm already struggling. Katsuhiro Otomo was able to expand things on that he mentioned in the movies in the book, and well, not really vice versa, because the movie he had to kind of move the plot along, but there is sort of this disconnect where
Mm-hmm.
it feels like we're missing information and context that we're not getting.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I didn't understand watching the movie, and if I had just heard you say it just then, I would have argued with you. But I've heard other people say it in like videos and like readings, that that accident Tetsuo had with that gremlin child awakened his latent psychic ability. I thought, when I saw the movie, I thought that them like colliding and coming in such aggressive contact with one another passed along, for some reason, I don't know, passed along these psychic abilities to Tetsuo, because that made sense to me and the other one doesn't make sense to me, because I guess at that time in the movie we had no context for that, and I guess I wasn't paying attention to the other stuff after that, because how else would he have gotten the stuff? He came in contact with one of the old children, you know?
Yeah. Well, and here, just to make you feel better, buddy, I thought the same thing when I first watched the movie.
Okay.
And then watching multiple videos and reading a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah.
Just like you said, it pretty much everywhere says he already had the abilities and this awoken it. And I was just like, okay. Well, I was just like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
I mean, that's fine. It's like doesn't bother me. I'm just it. I just thought I knew, and then I didn't, but of course, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But
Well, and they kind of hinted that with Kay at the end of the movie that she has
mhm,
her psychic abilities have awoken as well.
right, yeah, just everyone's got it. Everyone's got abilities. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's sort of like in Looper that some of them can just like hover things on their hands for no
Yeah.
reason. Um, yeah. Anyway, so it's okay. So once Tetsuo is um like coming to terms with having these abilities, or even just noticing he's having these abilities, right? Because he was, of course, taken by the government. The government runs tests on him, whatever. Once he escapes, okay, and meets back up with his girlfriend, and they take Kanada's motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Here comes my favorite part of the movie. Okay, is
Mm-hmm.
um, his sort of hallucinogenic freakout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coolest part of the movie to me. I think it's so rad because he's having that freak out and he's having these visions, and they're so strange and so violent and so visceral, right? Like when his guts fall out. I mean, I'm in, right?
Dude, I thought for sure that was real, and then when it cuts back and they're gone, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool way to show that he's kind of losing it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which I liked, obviously. But once we get to him sort of being full psycho, like
Yeah.
he's fully immersed in these powers and has gone completely off the rails and is very evil at this point. Um, that's the first time. That's when I started glancing at my phone and was kind of flipping around on stuff. Because I think what happened was I don't know what's happening right now. So here's my phone. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm lost, right?
Yeah.
Because then we're having uh Canada and what's her name in like the sewers or tunnels or whatever
Mm-hmm.
with those guys, and they're breaking into I think the government facility. Am I right?
Yes.
And it shouldn't be this hard, Jer, but it is. Um, and then we're cutting to the old children still, and then Tetsuo is like out and about and like forcing his evil on people, and then he goes back to the government facility, I think, and then he escapes again and terrorizes the old children. Um, and then he escapes for the final time until and until the body horror stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
I think. But anyway, all that to be said is that I'm not alone in being confused. I was reading, and there are videos that say that around the 40-minute mark, which is early, I think I lasted a little bit longer than that. Audiences started getting a little confused, right? Because
Yeah.
this is where this weaving comes into play, where if you read the book, you kind of understand what's going on and what they're omitting and what they're adding and what sort of they're putting together to create this through line.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, like me, then you're sort of like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know
Yeah.
who these people are. I don't know what matters. Like the medicine woman who is sort of the leader of this of these this group that are the protesting group.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she's a huge deal in the books. Like she's like one of the main characters, right?
Okay.
Kaneda, not a main character in the book.
Hmm.
Isn't that wild?
That is
He's
wild.
he's there for comic relief in the books, apparently.
Hmm.
Is what I read, which is fascinating. That for this story, they're like, let's put him front and center, right? Let's change
Yeah.
up dynamics a little bit and have him be sort of our protagonist, our hero against Tetsuo, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I do find that very interesting as well, just because having seen the movie and not read the books, the movie, it makes sense,
Mhm.
especially as we learn through flashbacks that Tetsuo and Kaneda are pretty much brothers. And so it makes
Yeah,
sense for Kaneda to be the one to go head to head with Tetsuo.
yeah.
Um, but for the manga, that's really interesting that
Isn't it?
that Katsuhiro was just like, nah, he's the funny one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
To my understanding, that is what I uncovered. That he's not really. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Those of you who do know, I do know that we are treading on very delicate territory right now because this movie is a
Yeah.
big deal to a lot of people. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and let's press pause just for a second with our not necessarily criticism, but I guess our critique. And I could see why this movie is so big,
Yeah.
because its animation style, I think, is
Oh, we'll get to that. That I know a lot about.
we'll put a pin in that, but its animation style, I think, is one of the most fluid animation styles I've ever seen. So it's gorgeously animated.
Mhm.
Um, the story, even though we've been critiquing the story already, the story is still fantastic. As this dystopian cyberpunk body horror um political genre mashup, it's still a great story,
Mhm.
and again, I could see why it's been so influential, not only on um anime as a whole, but also filmmaking.
Mhm.
Shout out to our season premiere of Nope. Jordan Peele snuck in an Akira motorcycle slide
Yeah.
at the tail end of the movie when oh my god, I just blanked on
I mean, her real name's Kiki Palmer. So if you want to,
yeah, I just blanked on Kiki Palmer's character's name. Oh no, but she does it, and Jordan was like, yeah, I had to, I had to put in the Akira slide.
I mean, if she's riding a motorcycle, let's do that slide.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I agree. We have to be very careful.
People love it, and rightfully so. I'm just saying, as a novice when it comes to this film, and definitely when it comes, I know nothing about mangas, right? Nothing. So
Mhm.
I'm coming in pretty fresh on this stuff. Um, but it was very cool. I enjoyed my time watching this movie. I thought it was awesome. I thought it's just I got confused. I get confused sometimes. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, it takes work, and that's fine. Movies can take work. I don't think that's a bad thing. Um, what we talk about real work in a second when we talk about the animation, but
Yeah.
I think, and I haven't seen a single thing about it, but as soon as I started this movie, and that guy's name is Tetsuo, I immediately thought of the movie Tetsuo. Okay,
Mhm.
there's a film that came out the year after in Japan called Tetsuo. In America, it's called Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is the literal translation of Tetsuo. And it is a bizarre sci-fi horror, body horror film that is completely, to use a modern term, it's unhinged. Okay,
Okay.
the movie is insane. Okay, um,
Okay.
it's a little over an hour, and you're just seeing this guy be taken over by metal. Okay,
Mhm.
and completely consumed by it, and it being his whole body being taken over by it. And it's got a very unique um, very unique style and a very unique way of shooting. They do. I forgot there's a technical term for it, but they do stop motion, but with
Okay.
live action, right? So
Okay.
it's amazing to watch. But that's the first thing I thought of, and there were similarities between that film and the ending of Akira. But I saw
Mm-hmm.
nothing that said it had anything to do with one another, even though they're a year apart. So I don't. But um, I don't know where I was going with that. I just thought it was cool.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Oddly enough, I watched a video today breaking down the genre of body horror, and they tell it in three parts from three different films.
Mhm.
And the first one was Akira, obviously. The second one was Videodrome,
Nice.
and I think I didn't make it to the third one, but I'm pretty sure the third one was Tetsuo, the
Are you
Iron
serious?
Man. Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay. So I thought that I was the most engaged by this last bit of the film because things just go completely bananas. And
Mm-hmm.
we're yada yada through so much. But
That's
when Tetsuo becomes like um completely overtaken by this evil, the whatever it is, right?
mm-hmm.
Because really, I'm not really sure what caused him to be so evil, besides his feelings of inadequacy and feeling like always in kind of the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once he gets these psychic powers, it's like all of that comes to a head, and that he's using those feelings he has and having them take over his personality. Basically, is what's going on. The the psychic powers are allowing him to act out this rage in devastating ways. Right?
I Yeah, and again, we've been saying, I'm sure there's context in the manga that we're not
Yeah.
getting, but yeah, it is interesting that it is almost like a full switch,
Mhm.
that all of a sudden, one, he's so at ease with these powers already that like he's not, there's no learning curve. He's just like
I mean, there's a
good.
little learning curve, but I get it. You're right. It's very nice.
And then yeah, he's just, but again, yeah, I think the film tries to do a good job of showing these flashbacks of his inadequacy, living in Kanada's shadow, always feeling like he has to be saved. And now, well, I can do whatever I want now.
Right.
And so it's, it is the, and I apologize for the metaphor. As we were talking about off mic, I just got done playing Spider-Man 2. It is definitely with great power comes great responsibility kind of
Lame.
thing.
Lame. Mad.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, but I mean, but it kind of is, because he could have easily, as the old children, and I love that we're just calling them that. The old children try to tell him to
Don't know what
stop
else to
him.
call them.
Um, they, he could have gone the other way. He could have helped them or something like that, but he didn't. And I think it is because of everything we saw in the flashbacks.
I needed more context for the old children. I thought they were fascinating, and especially with the introduction, well, which kicked off everything, right? Which is the 26 escaped with that guy was helping him escape. Then
Mm-hmm.
of course the accident happened, and then it kicked off everything. Um,
So, okay, I think I finally have an answer for that.
oh, okay.
And we're gonna circle back to everything else about the film. So one of the biggest things that I was struggling to grasp with this movie is the point, because I know not every film has to have a point, but with this story I was like, there has to be a point somewhere. And in all of the videos I dug up, all the things I read about it, um essentially this was, in a way, Katsuhiro's anxieties in a post-world Japan,
Mhm.
and how World War II leveled Japan, and then within uh, my brain's not braining, whenever World War II was, in the years following that, Japan had this economic boom,
Yes.
and everything changed for them. And so the film kind of really touches on those anxieties. Like when we fast forward to 2019, and Neo Tokyo has been overrun with Western influence and Western capitalism. So one of the things I read and I really liked, and it made sense, was this is Katsuhiro saying of the dangers of losing yourself, losing Japan's identity to the West, to America, which is
Mhm.
oddly enough that American audiences love this movie. So that's one thing, and then the old children kind of follows in with the why they look old. Uh, it's supposed. I couldn't find any tangible thing, but this made sense. Almost, it's representative of someone with radiation poisoning.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, that all makes sense because when this movie was made, um, you're right that Japan was like at the height of its, economic power, right? Like they were like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sort of like America in the 80s, right? I mean, it was, it was whatever. But you're right. And I did. It was either a video or I read it about the post-war Japan. Obviously, those parallels are there because of the atomic blast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and the fallout and the this sort of post-apocalyptic, way of living um with the anarchy and but not really because they still go to these kids still go to school.
Yeah,
you know
it may be
um
vocational school, but they still go to school.
yeah, they go to school, and but there's motorcycle gangs, and there's violence, and there whatever. It's sort of like Mad Max, but not really, right?
Right.
It's a civilized Mad
Yeah.
Max. and it, yeah, and you're right, the old children do resemble those who have suffered from nuclear fallout or radiation poisoning.
Well, and oddly enough, video, I can't remember which one that I watched where they talked about this. They brought up a movie that you told me about, um, and hopefully you'll remember
Okay.
the title, because I think I'm about to butcher the title. They brought up, during Japan having a lot of these anxieties about World War II. They made a lot of films about it, I'm assuming as a way for them as a country
Hmm.
to deal with these anxieties. They've mentioned From the Fireflies,
Oh, Grave of the Fireflies.
Grave of the Fireflies. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, and they showed some scenes for that, and I was like,
Tremendous
holy
film.
shit.
It's so
I was like,
good.
I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit.
Very sad.
So it seemed, yes, but so it seems like with this movie, Katsuhiro wanted to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Rather than actually showing it in World War II, what if it happened in 1988?
Hmm.
Where would we be 30 years later from that?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. Um, but there was one more thing I wanted to mention about it, and I don't remember.
It's okay.
But yeah. So that's, I guess, more so just like design choices,
Yeah,
which answers a lot of questions.
Blade Runner is a good comparison. Because it is. I mean, it's very Blade Runner esque, right?
Yeah.
Um, and without it getting too crazy, like nothing seemed overly futuristic, or distractingly inaccurate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but okay, let's get to the stuff I know about. So,
Okay.
so the director, um, not only did he, love, he loved writing, he loved doing these, he loved like animation and writing and drawing and all that stuff. He loved film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, New Hollywood film. So we're talking Easy Rider, Bonnie and Clyde, Dog Day
Okay.
Afternoon, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And what he loved about the Midnight Cowboy, that's another one. What he loved about these movies was that they were so different from like old Hollywood, right? So, which was the point. It's very counterculture, but not only were these like a lot of roaming films, like travel films, like Easy Rider or Bonnie
Mm-hmm.
and Clyde,
Mm-hmm.
but he mentioned that these are just like regular looking people. Like these are sort of like, you know, um, everyday, normal, plain people, which is kind of mean, but it's true. Um,
Yeah.
there's nothing spectacular about them, but they're doing spectacular things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he was creating this story and creating this film, he wanted it to look different in a very unique way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think why I do like this movie a lot. And I think because someone like me who doesn't really enjoy anime, right, doesn't really get it,
Right.
be honest with you, this movie is sort of palatable because it's not drawn traditionally anime, right?
Mm-hmm.
The everyone is drawn pretty proportionate, um,
Yep.
especially the women. The women in this film are just everyday women, right?
Yeah.
Which, if you know, you know, that's not usual, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to Japanese animation, that is unusual. Um, and
Yeah.
even the creator, he was like, dude, like it's easy to draw like super cute, really like overly exaggerated, beautiful women. That's easy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is more difficult because it's more real, right?
Yeah.
The exaggerated things in this film sort of come with levity, so they're sort of the like when they're being interrogated at the police station, there's a little bit of exaggeration with the way he laughs, and that's because it's comic relief, right?
Yeah.
But if it's not comic relief, it's not happening. So everything's pretty proportional. Um, so besides the way it looks, like on a like in a design standpoint, here's where things start getting really interesting. Is and remind me of his last name, if you can.
Otomo.
Okay, Otomo. Is that what you said?
Otomo.
Okay,
Otomo. Otomo.
Otomo. He basically said, "Listen, zero shortcuts. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
none." And what that means is a lot of work. So
Yeah.
this film is shot predominantly 12 frames per second. No, I'm sorry, 24 frames per second. I want you to think about that. A
Yeah.
traditional film, a live action film shot on celluloid 35 millimeter, is shot 24 frames per second. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
These people are drawing 24 drawings a second. Okay?
Yeah.
In some cases it's 12. In some cases it's way more than 24 because they're doing slow-mo. Okay? There are shots where we're pushing in on a character and the ground is even moving,
Mm-hmm.
proportionate to the camera motion. Okay?
Yeah.
The detail in the buildings, for instance, some of the animators are like, yeah, some of them are like some of the windows are 3 millimeters, but when you go over here at this angle, it's one. But then when you go back here, it's just like a dot or a line, and you really have to pay attention to what you're like. What are you talking about? Like they're having to paint. This is just the background. They're having to painstakingly and accurately, depending on the angle. You know what I mean? So to put this in perspective, Disney, okay,
Okay.
even in the 1960s, they're cutting corners like crazy. They're like, for 101 Dalmatians, they started using Xerox to
Okay.
save time. And what I saw, that actually pulled them out of having to shut their doors forever. Because if they had been doing it traditionally up until that point, it would have been too expensive. It would have taken too much time. And so once they figured out how to use Xerox to cut corners and to make it a little easier on the animators and to save time, they started doing that. And then, of course, a lot more with more technology later on down the line.
Right.
Another example, if we don't want to bash Disney, is Hanna-Barbera. They are notorious for animating just certain parts of the body, depending on what's going on in the scene. Of course, very famously, the background is always reused and recycled. Depending on what's going on, you just see the loop of the same background over and over again while they're running. Otomo's like, absolutely not. No, no, no. The reason this film looks so fantastic is because of the work and the just the sheer amount of manpower it takes to animate a film that looks and feels and reacts like a live action film.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You've never seen anything like it, and you may not even notice it. But trust me, if you go back, you're like, I can't believe they were able to achieve this with animation.
Yeah. You know, and I think that helps because this film had 5 different studios backing it.
Yeah,
So they had the money to take time. But I feel like even if they didn't, I think Otomo would have still like, no, we're going to take time on this because, you know, between the two of us, I've watched the most anime.
agreed.
And not to say that any of the animes I've ever seen are bad or poorly animated or anything like that. But now seeing Akira, I can pick up on a lot of animes that have tried to replicate that style.
Mhm.
Um, one of the ones I can really think of is Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah,
which is one that I know you love.
I've seen
But
it. Yeah,
Cowboy
I do
Bebop,
like it. Yeah.
yeah, Cowboy Bebop is one that they're really grounding the show that's essentially a space western in reality. You know, having
Within reason.
within reason, yeah, there are some moments that are outlandish, but you know, like to your point, you know, I would say the most like for character design, the most outlandish is Faye Valentine. She is a very disproportionate.
And the kid
Dis-
too. The kid is
oh, Ed. Yeah,
stereotypically anime, right?
yeah. Ed
But
is
I'll go one step further,
okay.
and up until Akira, okay,
Uh-huh.
most if not all, um, anime especially was post recorded for voiceover, meaning the animation was done and now the voice actors have to match what they see, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
influences their performance and influences their cadence and how they talk, right?
Right.
Again, Tomo's like, that's insane. I want actors, and he chose sort of inexperienced voice actors because a lot of well known veteran voice actors at the time know how to do the other way, know how to do the post, right? Which means they're
Mm-hmm.
so used to catering to the image, not their performance, right? So he's like,
Right.
I want people to perform how they want and how they feel, and we'll just match that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, and I'm not exaggerating, if you watch the subtitled, which I did not, I watched the dubbed because I don't want to read
Yeah.
it if I don't have to. Um, it's perfectly lip synced. Perfectly lip synced. Okay?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Because which is interesting that you bring that up because that's essentially how most English dubs are. You know, the animation's already done. Now you have
Of
this
course.
English voice actor having to like,
Yeah,
okay. Um, to be honest, even though I always kind of figured that's how it was, I never knew that until recently. I'm going to go off on just a quick tangent here,
sure.
but it does kind of come full circle. Um, Another one of my favorite animes is called Trigun, which I think I've told you to watch. They just recently, in a new animation company in Japan called Orange, they're doing a reimagining of it, and I've started watching it. It's different.
Mhm.
They're kind of telling a more concise story. But Johnny Young Bosch, an American voice actor who most of our millennial audience out there may know as Adam, the second Black Ranger from Power Rangers. Um,
I'm
he
familiar.
voiced Vash, the Stampede, who's the main character of Trigun. He voiced him in the original run of the anime, and then came back to do the new version. And that's something he talked about. That this animation style that they're using is so precise
Mhm.
that he has to really watch, as he words it, the lip flaps, to make sure he can get his cadence correct. Because I've been watching the dub, and even though there are little moments where it's very like early 1980s
Mhm.
dub where the mouth isn't matching up
Right, which is
with
to
what
be
we're
expected,
hearing.
which is how the American English dubbed is for this movie for Akira, right? It's you can't get around it.
Which, like I said, I was going to come full circle. Johnny Young Bosch voiced Kaneda in the 2001 redub. Buddy, you're frozen.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, so I told you it was going to come a full circle
I'm
again.
dead.
That he, yeah.
But
Um,
even with the Japanese voice actors, I mean that's how it was. It was post, right? They
yeah.
would animate it, and then I mean, this is the original voice cast. They would say match it, right? But
Hmm.
again, there's something about putting in the extra work, which when I say extra work, I don't mean a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean it's full, crazy amounts of work to let's match the voice, not the other way around. And so they would this guy, he's insane. So he would even draw certain mouth shapes depending on what sound they're making, right?
Hmm.
And what pitch and what, tone they're in, just so like animators understand, like, okay, but because again, in Japanese, your inflection matters too. So,
Hmm.
um, so it's like, okay, well, again, when it's this inflection, that's what his mouth is going to look like, right?
Right.
The insane level of detail is unmatched, and of course, that's what I think that's what's going to capture your attention, even when you're confused, like me,
Yeah.
because you're just staring at it, and you're like, I can't believe how good this looks, and and how smooth it is, right?
Hmm.
And you may not even notice that it's so far above the quality of a traditional animated whatever, right?
Right.
Um, but I mean, if you take the time and you really start paying attention to the detail and to again just how things react to other things and how the way the camera is, how everything else shifts too, it's amazing, right? And how
Yeah.
much work that takes, even if you don't notice, they don't care. Um,
Yeah.
the only problem with the animation is I think it dips a little bit near the end in quality. That would be my only criticism, is that it again, we're not talking a huge dip in quality. We're talking we were at 100 in the beginning, and
Hmm.
near the end of the film we're at like 97. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and it goes back to what you were just saying about the 24 frames per second. You know, that's what gives it such a fluid motion. Because I think, yeah, I think I watched a video where it was like they only used 12 frames, which is used for traditional
Mm-hmm.
animated stuff. They only use 12 frames for the close-ups because they could, because we're only focusing on this
Yeah.
one little piece here. But everything else, that's got to be 24. Or like you said, the few slow-mo shots that are in the movie, have to be animated longer.
It's insane. It's
Um,
incredible. Even the long exposure of the lights when they're doing their motorcycle thing.
oh yeah,
Like you see that the
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 streaks.
the streaks, the light streaks. What is happening? That's so cool. You know, it's
Yeah,
this movie is a really cool movie, and I think that's its staying power for sure.
yeah,
Is that it's just a cool movie, you know?
yeah. I mean, and that's why they've been trying to make a live action adaptation
Good
for
luck.
years. Well, I don't know if you knew this or if you heard or if you did know. Um, I'm just gonna tell our audience, Zach. Um, supposedly, Taika Waititi's gonna be doing the live action version.
We'll see.
That he's helping with the script. But here's what's interesting. I read today that he had dropped out because of like the development hell that this movie's been in since apparently like 2007.
Mhm.
So this movie has been in development hell. And so apparently he dropped out, but then he was like, no, I still fully intend to make this movie. It's just going to come after my Star Wars movie. But now a lot of people are saying it seems like he's refocusing back on Akira and putting Star Wars on hold. So I'm
Interesting.
like, but I mean, here's my thing with this though. It'll be like a Ghost in the Shell situation. You'll have people who are such diehard fans of the anime see the movie, and if there's even one thing that doesn't feel right, it's it. Um,
Well, it's going to be difficult because I would consider myself now a fan of this movie. I do like it a lot.
mhm.
Does it confuse me? Yeah, it does. But was it really cool to watch and was it captivating and interesting and entertaining? Yeah. So I liked it. But again, what makes it so amazing is the innovation, is the work and the time and the detail put into it.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like a traditional anime, so you're watching something that feels familiar, yet it's super different, innovative. Um, and I don't I don't care to watch a CGI film. I don't care. I don't want it. You know,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you're going to be able to do any of it.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I don't know. I don't want to watch just actors in front of a green screen for 2 hours. Um, don't feel like it. And unless they do
unless
everything practically, and that would be really interesting to see. But if you thought this was expensive, which it was at the time, it was 1 billion yen, which isn't a lot in dollars, but it was
yeah,
like
here let's
10 million
see.
in 1988. It's pretty good. It's quite a bit.
Yeah, here let's see. Even though like you have to adjust for inflation, which you think I know that shit. Let's see here. You said it was 1 billion
In
yen.
1988, it was 1 billion. Yeah, I probably 87. It took him a while to do this, maybe longer.
Where the hell is it? Oh, Japanese yen. There it is. Okay, so
Captivating. I'm sure everyone is on the edge of their
billion
seat.
yen. I know.
It's nothing like listening to someone do math.
It's not doing it. It's not.
Yep. Well, that's just
Well,
shocking.
one US dollar equals about 150 yen.
There you go.
So
There you go.
one.
It wasn't like when they said the amount of dollars, I was like, oh, but again, for 88, that's still a lot of money. It was like a 10 million or something crazy. Like, I mean, it's still like more money I'll ever see in my lifetime. But um, in terms of making film, it's not really a whole bunch. Um, but with um for them, this was like a gigantic undertaking in terms of like investment
Mhm.
for these 5 studios. A billion yen is a lot. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, where did it all go? On the screen. I mean, you know what I mean? It's all there. It's just that's how much work it takes. You know?
Yeah. And so to kind of not really get us back on track, but dude, I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, I was confused, especially at the middle part of the movie when we get this sort of
Oh yeah, we're back to the plot.
political,
Yeah,
well, not really the plot, but like this political coup. I was like, what does this have to do with anything? But yeah, the movie was entertaining, especially because I feel like the movie gets back on the rails when Kaneda faces off with Tetsuo in the last, like 30 minutes.
yeah,
I've well, that's not giving a lot. I would say less, like 45 or so. Because the movie's 2 hours long.
yeah,
So but I feel like that's when the movie gets back on the rails and you're like, okay, like let's go.
yeah. Now I get what's
Um
happening.
yeah. Oh, can I say I really felt bad for Tetsuo's girlfriend,
Oh yeah,
Kaori, that he accidentally crushes her.
yeah.
Uh
Whoops.
uh I felt really bad about that. I was like, man, this poor girl can't catch a break.
Yeah, that was yeah. She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Her story is also different in the book too, is my understanding. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we only really get like 3 scenes with her
right. I
in
mean,
the
again, we're
movie.
condensing a lot of these people's storylines to almost nothing, right? And we're having to change it in some cases. Like hers is completely different in the book anyway. Um, they are they are dating in the book, but it's different. I don't remember how, but and again, that medicine woman who I think is really interesting, um, has like a whole thing, you know, like
Yeah.
like she's in a few of them,
Yeah.
and yeah. So, and again, the whole thing with Kaneda not being like the person we're following is so bizarre to me, but because again, you're
It
following
is.
all these different people anyway. So, I mean, yeah, he's not the main character. He's in it, obviously, but we're following all these other people too, right? And especially with the last final blast, right? In
Mhm.
the book, there's a new explosion,
Mhm.
and we're seeing all of the characters we've been following for all these books react and where they are during this whole blast, right? Which is it all comes together in this one big thing
Right.
in the final moments, which is interesting.
As for the movie, we just really get it from Kaneda's perspective.
Mhm. And if I'm remembering correctly, it's really not as devastating as the book is. Um, but then, then I got confused again because, um, so I get that Akira is in these bottles, right?
Mhm.
And like there's a spinal cord there, there's like a nervous system there, there's a gallbladder there. I don't know, but once they're out of their glass, um, he's able to, I guess, psychically reassemble himself. Um, I guess, and
Yeah.
and and take Tetsuo, like you said in the beginning, to this other plane of existence. It seems as if he's now like the supercomputer at the end of that Asimov short story. Like he's everywhere now. Um,
Yeah. Everything I read is essentially, yeah, he takes him to another dimension where it creates like a new universe.
oh,
And that's why it ends with him saying, I am Tetsuo. Because it's almost like a kind of like a loop, where people in the world that we've been following know of Akira,
mhm.
and then now in this new universe, people will know of Tetsuo.
I see. I see. Okay.
At least that's what I understood as I read it. I was like, okay, that makes sense,
It
I
makes more
guess.
sense than anything I would have come up with. So, um, okay. Well, because like I understand that he's like expanding now. He like can't stop because the power is just too much, right? And he's being
Hmm.
overtaken by it in in not just a psychological way, but now a physical way. Now he just can't stop absorbing power, I suppose, which was interesting. It was
Yeah,
really gross, and I liked it, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is interesting because especially when Akira's blast hits him, he starts to de-evolve, I guess, like go back to his normal self. Again, probably context that we're missing here,
maybe
or it's more expanded upon in the book since the final book came out after the movie was finished.
right.
So
That makes sense.
I'm sure Atomo was like, "Here, we're gonna really stretch this out and make people understand."
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just know I liked it. I didn't
yeah,
understand a lot of it, but I liked it. Um, it's sort of a cool place to be. It's sort of like, yeah, whatever. I'm just vibing
yeah.
with it. You know. Um,
Well, I'll end on this before we wrap up. Um, you could definitely see Akira's influence on um on the rest of anime going forward from 1988, um especially in animation style. I mean, things did kind of go back to the over exaggerated um designs of
sure.
characters.
Yeah, I mean they're not gonna get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's still a place for it.
but one that I would consider, I think, had the best in terms of design, um and it is considered an anime even though it was made by an American animation studio. um the Last Airbender.
Yeah.
uh what did you think I was gonna say?
I don't know. I honestly had no clue.
Yeah, The Last Airbender, for those Nick babies out there.
Mhm.
um yeah, I mean, like, because that is considered an anime, like
Is it?
Japanese. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
technically. I've been told that Japanese uh, um, animators consider it a fantastic anime.
Interesting.
Um, but I feel like Akira influenced that in terms of design because all the characters in The Last Airbender are designed proportionately.
Mhm.
They're not. They're just regular people. Yes, there are those occasional episodes where their eyes bug out and things like that, but 9 times out of 10, it's pretty um,
Hmm.
grounded.
Didn't really get
So
into it, so I don't know.
I didn't get into the Legend of Korra, which is like hundreds of years after the events of Last Airbender. So
Weird.
yeah.
Not interested. Honestly, okay. So a little part of me
Uh
thought you were going to say the Boondocks. I mean, I was I,
huh.
like 5% of me was like, is he going to say Boondocks? That's going to blow my mind. And you didn't, and it's fine. Um,
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I know it's fine. You don't need
but
to
I'm
laugh at
sure,
it.
some of those animators wouldn't be where they are without Akira,
That's true.
which is the point I was making.
Yes, agreed. Actually, it this will segue nice into an episode we'll do later this season. For my pick, as a matter of fact, um, that is anime that is grounded in reality, kind of. So we'll see. We'll get to that
Yeah.
later
Oh,
on.
yeah. Well, buddy, are you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, this episode's a wash. I feel like we didn't fucking talk about anything. I said
Nah.
nothing of value, but it's okay. And it just I liked the movie. It was great. Um, and it deserves all the praise it gets. It deserves all of the the amount of times people say, "Oh, this is an influence from Akira." Of course it is, because Akira is sort of like the beginning of modern anime, right?
Yeah.
So for better or for worse, right? Again, I'm not a huge fan, of anime,
Yeah.
but it's whatever. People seem to like it. I am a
uh,
minority, I believe.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, my buddy Quentin is still trying very hard to get me to watch One Piece. And that's over like fucking 600 episodes or some shit like that.
It's a lot.
I'm like,
It's a lot of
dude,
episodes.
I don't got time for that, bro.
How long has it been going? Like 30 years? Like what
Pretty much like
oh,
since the 90s, I'm pretty sure. And
okay.
it's
Interesting.
still going on.
Wow.
I mean, so much so that Netflix decided to turn it into a live action adaptation.
I've heard of it. I've heard of that.
Um,
Again, no disrespect, it's not for me, but
yeah.
it's for most people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, buddy, so what are we talking about next week?
That's a good question. I have an answer. I'm not just stalling for time. Yeah. So this week was fun. Again, I probably should have watched the movie again, but it doesn't matter. It's over. And next week we're gonna have some fun. I don't want to work hard. You'll have to. I won't. Because I've seen this movie a ton of times. Next week we're gonna be talking about Damien Chazelle's Whiplash.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Next week. This is a movie that as soon as I saw it, I left the theater. I wanted to see it again immediately. It was amazing. And I'm excited to share this with you. God, it's good.
So,
yeah.
So just like with Dear Zachary, I'm scared to watch it.
It's Whiplash.
Well, because that was probably me. I've been actively avoiding it, even though you gave me a copy,
mm-hmm.
just because I know how intense it is.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I don't want another anxiety-inducing movie, but I mean, I have no choice. You know the movies on our never list, so
yes I do.
Well, on my never list,
I don't have one. So good luck.
Yeah, so I have no choice but to agree. But also at the same time, I mean, I'm excited. I love J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons is incredible in this. So here's a fun story to end on J.K. Simmons. Okay.
It
has nothing to do with Whiplash, so buckle up. So, Billy West, as some of us know, is a voice actor, most notably as the voice of Fry on Futurama. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He is also, a lot of people might not know this, the Red M&M. Okay. In the M&M commercials. Yeah, that's Billy West. So, he has this story where he is home and his wife is watching this show. And she's like, you have to watch this show with me. It's absolutely incredible. He said, okay, what is it? He goes, it's called Oz. He said, okay. And so she's like, dude, there's this character on here. He is the most sadistic, most brutal, most terrifying character I've ever seen on any show. He's the leader of the white supremacist group in this show Oz, okay, which is a prison show, which is phenomenal, by the way. You should see it. And he sits down, and it's J.K. Simmons. And J.K. Simmons is given this brutal performance. He is tearing into this screen. He steals every scene he's in, and he starts laughing. And his wife goes, "What is wrong?" He goes, "I know that guy. He's the yellow M&M." He goes, "That guy's a goofball. What are you talking
about?" That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man in Invincible.
Dude, J.K. Simmons, he's awesome, man. And again, he's taking that intensity of Oz. Those of you who have seen Oz, you understand. And just putting it as as a jazz composer. That's what.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and I'm excited for you to see it.
Yeah, and one more thing before we leave. Also, I was going to say, I also love Miles Teller.
Yeah.
I think he has also proven himself a really good dramatic actor from going into these really dumb comedies to more dramatic roles. That's not to say that I didn't like 21 and Over. 21 and Over is fucking hilarious. But I think Miles has since proven himself a good dramatic actor. So
definitely, and this, I think this sort of catapulted that for sure.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed Akira, and we will see you next week for Whiplash.